Hello, good day viewers. I am Okocha P. Marcel and this is my channel. In this life, we must never learn how to remain neutral and silent, because your silence will help the oppressor to keep on oppressing the masses. But when you speak up, they see it as an attack. They see it as a caution. They see it as a warning to every bad system they are trying to create. And that is why in this channel, we talk about trending and political issues and we share news contents. So follow us, share our videos, subscribe to our channel, and always come by to watch our daily updates.
I saw the response of the presidential spokesperson and I laughed. Humor. Pure humor. You rebuff a report, but you don't have empirical analysis to point out the holes in the report. And he didn't rebuff it. He said it was a badly done job. No, the EU report was a well-done job. Kudos to the EU for empirically analyzing what happened in the elections and putting the report out there. A lot of Nigerians want to forget the trauma of the last elections. An election that promised so much but delivered so little. Is it the same elections that people were divided in Lagos? That town criers were coming out to tell people not to come vote? Is that same elections where people were beaten, blue, black, were hurt, and there was rancor everywhere? That our journalists, Okpe, where are you? Okpe was beaten and punched in the face for going to cover an election? Is this same election that somebody is trying to defend? This same election that we saw what happened in Obi we became a butt of jokes by the international community. This same election that on the 1st of March, Financial Times wrote Nigeria's flawed elections. Same elections that people didn't want to come. And these same elections that INEC has not been able to tell us what kind of technical glitch happened. If a glitch happens, there's going to be a technical analysis report of the nature of glitch. The first thing INEC should have done is to bring out that report. But till today, I have not seen anything of such. These same elections, and there were hurts, killings, beatings. This same election that was that lady's only offense that was gouged in the eyes. Jennifer, if my memory serves me right. Because she went out to vote, but she said nothing was going to stop me, I was going to vote. These same elections where INEC reneged on its promises. And the defense now is that, they didn't say we're going to... Did you see Mr. Festus Okoye? When our colleague asked him, what kind of technical glitch? He couldn't answer. I said the case is in court. We'll see when the defense opens. It opens today, isn't it? 3rd of July. We'll see when the defense opens. But you see, what we are saying is for us to move a country forward, we need the truth. We have had an elections like this in 2007. But the man that benefited, Umar Musa Aradua, came out to say, I know the elections that brought me were fraught with irregularities. And he gave us the wage report, which is a template for how elections should be today. We shouldn't deny the fact that the elections were filled with a lot of anomaly. 220 million population projected. Only 25 million people voted. So isn't the voter apathy shocking to Nigerians? Look at the chaos, look at the rancor, look at the pain that Nigerians face, look at the bewilderment that Nigerians faced after the elections. But what did the politicians do? They divided us further. EU, thank you for your very good report. Those that have ears, let them hear. Yes, some say it's a poorly done, bad job. I think they too should release their own report. Let's see. As long as they can't pick out the lies in the EU report, let's tell ourselves the truth in this country. If we want this country to grow, we must speak the truth to power every time. And that's what people don't like doing because they benefit from sycophancy. Because these same people that were hurt, all of a sudden, they are going to look for positions the next minute. Atenujaism is killing a lot of people. Atenujaism. They can't tell the truth because of what they want to benefit and going to eat. But I know Nigerian democracy will live tall. We'll come out of this, we'll keep looking at the future. There'll be possibilities that abound. But kudos on the EU for that report. Those that should take feedback should take feedbacks. And if we don't want to take feedbacks, the people are making up their minds and their decisions. And that's why you see that voter apathy is on the increase. People are not even coming out to vote again. Last election cycle, more people came out to vote than now. Dr. Abati, I yield the floor.
Okay, the EU mission report on the 2023 general election. For context, because we almost must, we should always put this in context. The European Union Election Observation Mission, led by Barry Andrews, was in Nigeria for about 3 months before the election and after the election. What is new is that European Union Election Observation Mission, EUOM, as it is called, has now released its final report. It is natural for different stakeholders to react in different ways to the report. Labour Party and the People's Democratic Party say that they have been vindicated, that what the EU has done is just to confirm what they've been saying, that that election, 2023 general election, was marred with irregularities, okay? But the winning party, the ruling party, the APC, now comes around and says, look, the European Union mission led by Barry Andrews is guilty of bias, and that, in fact, it is based on wrong assumptions. What is the argument put forward by the government of the day? Simply that the EU had just 11 analysts and about 40 election observers across over 700,000 polling units across the country. And their argument is that, look, with 40 observers across over 700,000 election polling units and just 11 analysts in Abuja, in terms of deployment, the federal government of Nigeria, the Tinubu administration argues that the EU could not have had a favorable, objective assessment of the election. However, the thing to note here is that it's very characteristic of the Nigerian government. Anytime any international agency or observer group says anything about the economy or about Nigerian politics, or even a media house international, whether it's The Economist or any other, or New York Times, writes anything unfavorable about Nigeria, the default position is to kick and say, no, you are lying, you are biased, you are prejudiced. So that's the context in this particular regard. So nobody should also be surprised that Labour Party and the People's Democratic Party are both saying, oh, we have been vindicated. However, it was not only the European Union that observed the elections. You had local observers, we had international observers. We had observers from the West African leaders, led by President Jonathan. We had observers from the Commonwealth. We had observers from the AU. We had observers from ECOWAS. I think for Nigerians to get the right perspective in this regard, it is one, to take a comprehensive view of all these observations. Two, it is also to be reminded that this matter is in fact before the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal. And that is why people have been saying we hope that the judiciary will do its job as the umpire that is part of the election process. Three, people should also be reminded that the EU spent about 3 months on this 2023 election process. So the government may say, oh, this is the best election ever, as Mr. Alake argues. But it is also the view of some other Nigerians that this is the most controversial and the most disputed election since return to civilian rule in 2023. Now, I've given this background to define the context. What is the rub of the matter? Now, what is more important is that the European Union made specific recommendations. I think it's more important for us as Nigerians, as stakeholders, and the relevant institutions to focus on those recommendations. What can be taken away from it? One, the EU is saying we need to pay attention to discriminatory discrimination against women in political life. That's an important message. The EU is saying impunity regarding electoral offenses. We have been on this impunity against regarding electoral offenses since the West Commission recommendation. We have not addressed it. The EU is saying that we have to ensure real-time publication of results. This is an issue on which many Nigerians have talked about. The EU is saying Nigeria has to look at ambiguities in the law, in the electoral framework, and resolve those ambiguities. Okay, I've mentioned just about 4 recommendations, but they made specific 6 recommendations. But to save time, I've drawn attention to these 4 recommendations that are in the public domain. So it is not enough to just say, oh, the European Union is biased. There is something in that their report that we need to talk about, that we need to worry about, that we need to focus on. And beyond all of this, of course, is that even the blind, the deaf, and the imbecilic in Nigeria who went through that 2023 general election resolved that, look, the Electoral Act 2022 has many lacunae therein that we still have to address. These are the intelligent points, beyond emotionalism, beyond partisanship. So can we go beyond emotional ejaculation and partisanship and look at specific recommendations? Because indeed, the process of defining a proper electoral framework for Nigeria is not finished. And the new National Assembly has to take a second look at Electoral Act 2022, which many who call themselves politicians and political leaders do not in fact understand. Even lawyers are confused about many of the provisions. That's the gravamen of the matter. The big issue that the EU report projects from my own perspective, and we need to deal with those big ideas-driven issues rather than all this partisanship and emotionalism.
Absolutely. I thought one of the key takeaways from that report, which is quite detailed, and I would encourage as many people as possible to read it, is the recommendations part, particularly the priority recommendations. But let me start off with the response by the presidency, delivered by the spokesman or spokesperson to the presidency, Mr. Dele Alake. One of the things we were looking forward to seeing in his response was perhaps a detailed response to some of the key issues that were highlighted in that report. So the EU was very specific, and as he mentioned, as we would imagine, for an organization such as that, they would have taken their time to really detail their findings, observations, and then recommendations. What Mr. Alake does is to rubbish the entirety of the report without giving specific responses to key issues that were highlighted in that report. For instance, I'd have loved for Mr. Dele Alake to have responded to voter apathy, the issue around voter apathy, and show or demonstrate with proof that there was no voter apathy in defense of his statement that the report was not factual. He also mentioned that the report was done polling about 50 or fewer than 50 people. I wish he would also detail that, because that is it's a big stab on not just the report, but the integrity of the European observation mission who came to Nigeria and who, as highlighted by the PDP, funded significantly these elections and provided training to INEC itself. I think it's important to mention that. I'd also like for him to respond to issues around coercion of young people, engaging young people, and not maximizing youth in this particular election. Let him demonstrate with proof. It's not enough for us to receive rebuttals or rejoinders, but with just a holistic rubbishing of the report. This is an intellectual conversation or debate. So if there is anything wrong or misleading about that report, beyond just making sensational headlines as to how jaundiced the report is, it would be great for them to respond line by line, accusation or perhaps observation by observation to defend their part. One key area I'd like to mention is the EU's observation of the role of the media, and in some cases, media suppression. In fact, the EU's report praised the way the media reported this election. They talked about the fact that the media gave equitable platforms or equitable space to all political parties. So where we had the APC come for an interview, the PDP balanced it. However, what they said was that when we had interviews with some of the key candidates during this election, they tried to avoid questions that talked about the merit of what they were going to do. Instead, spend time slinging or mudslinging their opponents. And this was clear. We saw that even on the show, whereby would try to bring issues on the table, and rather than that, would see candidates or representatives want to speak against the other party. That was clear. We were all witnesses to that. It would be great for him to pick up some very salient points that were highlighted in that report. And that's why I recommend that as many people as possible should read the report and make your decisions for yourself. We were all witnesses to that. He also talked about the role of the NBC and how the NBC handed out fines, over 100 of them, without due process being followed. I think that's also something to take note of for future elections. Remember that usually when reports like this are released, it is for us to learn lessons and take it further so as not to repeat the same mistakes. We can do elections better. We saw what's played out even in other parts of Africa, as we will see other elections take place in the next few months and next year. It is important for us to begin to conduct elections whereby we do not become a ridicule before the world, or it doesn't become an issue for us as a nation. Also, very importantly, they mentioned that the Election Act of 2022 was supposed to be a game changer. So they did highlight some positives in terms of BVAS, but unfortunately, some of the shortcomings, even of BVAS, are not having real-time transmission of results as was promised by INEC. These are issues that we need to address. It's not enough for us to come out and say rubbish, jaundice, not enough people. I believe that we do have a very experienced man when it comes to being the spokesperson of the presidency. Mr. Dele Alake himself has been in media for a very long time and is a respected figure in that line. Therefore, when responses should come to reports like this, it should be intellectual and it should be fact-based. Hopefully, we'll get further reports from that. But again, like I mentioned, recommendations, great. They also talked about, beyond participation of women, also talked about engaging the youth better in future elections.
We are victims of bad political leadership. We are the victims of bad system of government. And for this reason, you must not remain silent. I must speak up and you must speak up. When you remain neutral to every bad political system, it helps the oppressor, not the victims who are the masses like me and you. And for that reason, we share news content, we talk realities out of trending and political issues on this channel. My name is Okochapi Marcel and this is my channel. Please kindly help me to share my videos, subscribe to this channel, and always come by for new videos.